And in order for us to put this into production, operationalize it, what we would do is we would need to build out a few other things. One, we would need to build a Docker file to containerize it. And two, we would need to build a web app as well. In this case, I'm going to use FastAPI for that. And then once we have those components, we can push this into the cloud. And AWS has a nice development environment called Cloud9. I'll go ahead and use that. And in addition, I can use a service called App Runner, which is a nice service that works with containers on the AWS ecosystem. So really, this is the logic of building a pre-existing piece of code. In this case, we have an NLP library, and we're going to take that and turn it into a web service. All right, so to start with, I'm going to go over to AWS, and inside of AWS here, we've got Cloud9, and Cloud9 is pretty cool because it allows us to build out things inside of the environment that eventually it'll be running. So the operating system's the same, the context is the same, the roles, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this NLP web service FastAPI, and we'll put a little description here. This is for building out a containerized and continuously. Boy, I'm having spelling issues today. I'm early in the morning. There you go. Continuously. Perfect. Continuously deployed FastAPI. There you go. And I'm going to make it kind of a beefy machine because I'll do a C5X large because I wanted to build containers. I'm going to use Amazon Linux. Go ahead and say next step. The only real integration step necessary to work with things is I need to create SSH keys and send those to Google, to a GitHub, which is going to be pretty easy. So I'll let that run for a second. I mean, I guess I can even tee up GitHub. I'm going to need to go to here and go to settings, SSH and GPG keys, new key. So I'll kind of get this ready, and we'll call this Cloud9 NLP. And then once this thing wakes up, there we go. Now I can just close that, get this thing going, and I'm going to immediately type in SSH keygen-t RSA. So this will build out SSH keys, and then I can put those into GitHub. And this just allows me to connect to my repo. There you go. Add the key. Okay. I gotta do this real quick. GitHub. There we go. So those are added. And now I just need to go to my projects here and find the repo. Go to repo and find local SSH. Grab that. And then we can put it in here. So now I can just say git clone it inside. Do the same thing I did in the other place, make a Python virtual environment. So we'll call this Python venv tilde.venv. It's slightly different invocation depending on the operating system. This is based on CentOS, so they use Python m-venv. I'll do the same thing though. I'll just add it to my bash RC, just make things efficient. There we go. And we'll say source venv bin activate. Okay, got that. I can do the same little trick, right? I can just say new terminal. There we go. Now we got that running. And if I cd into mastering functions, we've got all of our code. And so we can move pretty quickly here. The things that I would do immediately would be to do make install. In fact, if we look at this, there's an all. Look, I can do all that. So I can even add a little step here that says test and then format, right? So if I run make all, it'll just do everything. It'll just do an installation, kind of, and then just kick the tires on this thing a little bit. Make sure that there aren't any surprises. Always a good idea when you're moving to a new environment to run all the things that we did earlier that made it reliable. So this is the advantage of testing and linting and continuous integration, is it's less work, not more work. There we go. Awesome. We got everything cooking here. It did a little bit of reformatting, which is nice. I guess I could just handle this right now real quick, is just say git add star, git status. Let's add that change, those changes, git commit, adding changes. We can be sloppy on this commit. We don't care about that. Okay, now all I need to do is create a Docker file like that. And we also need to create a web service. And so what I can do is kind of go through my GitHub here and find like FastAPI. I'm sure I got something laying around that's kind of similar. Here we go. From Python. That looks good. Let's use that. Always a good idea to have templates of code laying around, because a lot of it of coding is boilerplate. So in this case, I'm going to use a base image here. It doesn't have to be Lambda, but in this case, the Lambda is kind of a slimmed down version of Amazon Linux that's good enough. I don't know if actually there's a Python 3.9 available. We could look real quick. Let's find this. Is that Linux? Let's see. Is there filters? Let's find Lambda Python verified. Sort by popularity. Here we go. This is the one we care about. Python 3.9. So we'll use Python 3.9. Always nice to see little changes like that. So Python 3.9. Whoops. Python 3.9. So we're going to make an app directory. We're going to make a file called main, copy it in there. We're going to install all of our code, and then it's going to run like this. So kind of an easy process to get this containerized. So I'll go ahead and create that file called main.py. And then I again can just look at my other project here, steal some code. Not that one, this one. Steal some code here. I probably have a main. There we go. There's a main. This looks pretty good. And let's work with this template. Okay. So from here, what do we got is we have FastAPI. UVcorn is the framework that serves it out. And for this, we'll just say hello NLP. And then we need to build some logic. And we also need to import things in the right way. So how do we know what to import? Well, this is where the command line tool comes in handy. Because we already built a nice little command line tool, it tells us what to import. We just need to do that. So let's go ahead and do that, right? And now we just need to change this into what it's going to actually pass in. In this case, it's only going to need to pass in a string, and we'll call this wiki phrases, and we'll call this name, like that, and we'll call this wiki phrase. And then we'll call this name. And I believe we can just do str for stir. And we'll say generates phrases, NLP noun phrases from Wikipedia name. And now we don't have to do much again because of the fact that we've already done a lot of the work. And so we can say phrases like that, or noun phrases like this. So it's going to return this payload. And then we again can go to our logic here, look at the library, see how it works. We just need that. We need a little piece of code. So we do that. We say get phrases name. Looks good. So total. Let's make it a little more readable and say phrases, even noun phrases. And I guess if we wanted to be, I forgot with FastAPI logging, FastAPI logging, how do they want you to do that? I want something the simplest as possible. And what do they got here? Okay, blah, 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 debugger. Let's see if they have logging in here somewhere. Let's look for log. Feature. Prints. How about prints? Prints. Let's just do a print for now. If we need it, we can do fancier stuff, but we can add a little print statement here that says, like, you know, passed in this. And this just gives us some debugging for when the endpoint is actually called. So that looks good. I think we got everything cooking. Let's also update the make file, and let's add another one, which is -- cov equals main, and then we'll also lint. Okay, the lint will get caught. So let's just do a make lint here. Although we need to add as well the requirements. We need to add FastAPI, and in fact, let's look at how I imported it before. I had requirements. Here we go. UVicorn. There we go. So we got this UVicorn standard, all this stuff. So let's do, I guess just make all. That's probably the easiest way to do this. Okay. Looking good. All right. So in theory, this could work by doing Python main.py. Whoa, looks like it's cooking. Now, the other thing that you can do in Cloud9 is it has like a preview, and I forget the preview URL, there's a way to do it here where you can see it, but let's see if this works. Preview running application. Oh, I guess it works. So we got this thing cooking here, and then if I wanted to, well, that's actually a pleasant surprise. And if I want to test it out, if I go to the end, we know that we can close that, we can close that, close this, we can close a Docker file. That there's a root default that says hello in NLP, and we also have the Wikipedia phrases name. So we just need to put in Wikipedia and then the name again. Now this is something I didn't think about, but we may want to have a single username Wikipedia. So let's go to Wikipedia real quick, and let's go here, and let's just go to Wikipedia, and let's just find like I don't know, like Lakers or something. So something really simple. So it looks like I would have to put in an underscore when I put it in. I mean, we could make this fancier in the future, but just wanted to double check how they handle it. So LA Lakers, well, didn't find it. Okay, well, let's see. Oh, because I need to do wiki phrases first. Wiki phrases. There you go. Well, that was ridiculously easy, almost too easy to get that working inside of FastAPI. Now, one other really slick feature of FastAPI that I'll just show real quick is that it also has the Swagger, which is in a sense kind of a killer feature. I think it's docs. Yeah, here we go, docs. And what's nice about this is that I can just click on my endpoint, and look, we have the documentation, and it's pretty much ready to go for someone. And we can click on try it out, and we can do the same thing. LA Lakers, execute. There we go. We got this thing cooking, and server response. There we go. Look at this. We have a full functioning web service endpoint. So we've made an incredible amount of progress. Let's go ahead and let's commit this. So we'll add all this stuff in. Now, the part to deploy it to AWS is actually not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, did I push that? Oh, I didn't push. So let's say git push. Okay, so to deploy to AWS, what do we do? Well, I can just go to the console again, and I'm going to go over to something called ECR. And let's go ahead and do that. Let's find view all services, and we can go for ECR. Let's find it. Container service. Containers, there we go. Elastic Container Registry. So the way this will work is that I will push a container into this repo, which will then trigger a build with AWS App Runner. So to do that, first I create a repo, and we'll call this NLP Wikipedia FastAPI. And go ahead and create this repo. Now to push it, not too bad. I would just go to NLP Wikipedia right here, and I look at the view push commands. And I just need to paste these in to Cloud9. Because I already have a role that gives me the ability to use things, I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and copy, and we'll go through and do this. Let's get this login. This will authenticate me. Perfect. Next step is build the Docker image. We can go ahead and do that. This is why I wanted a powerful machine, so that it wouldn't take as long. And so this is just going to build the local container so that once I've built it, I can push it into the ECR. So it's installing the software, looking good. Okay, it built it. There's our tag. Then I'm going to tag it, or there's our, we can tag it again actually. And then we want to push this. So again, this is where a bigger image is nice. So it's moving pretty quick. And there we go. And as this is pushing, I'm going to double check that this repo, I'm going to make this public real quick. And let's make this repo pull requests. There we go. Public. Type this. There we go. All right, this thing is now public, and ECR is been pushed. So if I refresh, we got an image. Now comes the fun part. So the really cool thing about AWS is they've really done some amazing work here, is that we can go over to App Runner, which is right here, and all we need to do is just point to that image. So AWS App Runner, we can say, look, listen to a container registry, and I want to use Amazon ECR, and I can go here and just browse for it, and we can just find the one I just created, which is NLP Wikipedia FastAPI. And then for deployment, there's a couple different options. One is manual, two is automatic. The automatic is pretty slick because it means that if I wanted to push a new container every time I made a change to the application, like for example, I added a new web service endpoint, the build system, if I hooked up, let's say AWS code build, which is similar to GitHub Actions, it would go through and automatically push the change. So this is definitely, I would say, in most cases, probably what people want. Because I'm doing a demo, I'm going to leave it here for manual. And then in this case, you would create a new rule if you didn't create one already. And we'll call this service name NLP Wikipedia FastAPI. And then you can configure whatever requirements are available for your application. This needs to map what is exposed in the container, this 8080. And then there's additional things that you could do, like start commands, etc. In this case, because there's a container, I don't need to do anything. You could even configure, custom auto scaling. In this case, it'll go up to 100 concurrent requests, which for a demo is fine. And you could do health checks, security, networking, observability tools. Let's try that. And then we can go to next. And all we need to do now is do a create and deploy. So this will take a few minutes to deploy this service. And so what is amazing about the AWS App Runner as well is that it gives you a full HTTPS URL. So in this case, look, we see this is going to be available for us. It even shows us the link to the source. And also you can see here some of the capabilities. So We have logs for the system, including the event log, deployment logs, so we can see like the create service, application logs. So like if I was adding more instrumentation and logging, they would show up here. The activity would show us where we're at. The metrics would show us things like requests, HTTP 200s, HTTP 400s, HTTP 500s, right? These are errors. And then we also can go to observability, right? Because I turned it on. We can look at the service map and it will show us like, stuff that's associated with this application. Also configuration, it shows us all of the information. So really it's a kind of a one-stop shop for building a end-to-end production quality web service, and it's containerized as well, which makes it really useful to actually hook things up to, because my container is going to be able to run exactly the same way as this is running locally. So maybe that's one thing to demo real quick, is that while this is finishing, if I go here, we can also just do the same thing locally, because if I type in Docker image ls, you'll see that in fact this is that Docker container that I built. And so what I can do is, I think I have the commands handy here, is we would want to run something like that, right? Is we would just do a Docker run command. So let's go ahead and try that. So the image so let's paste this in, and then the image ID would be this. So let's go ahead and run it. There we go. And you can see it's able to do exactly what the application server will do in the future. And again, our friend preview, if we go through here, it should just work. Yep, it just works. There we go. Hello NLP. And we could do all the same things that we would be used to doing before. Go to docs, right? We can go ahead and take a look at that. So containers I think are definitely the future for web services in particular. It doesn't make sense not to use them. Whether you use Kubernetes or not, that might be a more of an open question. But in terms of containers, there's just a lot to like about it, because it puts the runtime alongside the code, which allows you to have a more robust deployment story. And this is definitely the case here. And we can see here Docker run, right, with the image ID. The other thing to be aware of is that we could even do Docker Lints, add some additional steps here. Let's just double check that we've got everything checked in. So we have a few changes, and so we'll go ahead and commit these changes, say adding Docker file like this. We'll go ahead and push this. Okay, so we got those changes pushed, and there is actually a tool called Docker Lint, which is kind of handy, that we may want to just take a look at real quick. Is Docker Lint, and it's called Hatto Lints. And so this is a neat little tool, because it will allow you to just do this command. Like you can just run Docker run. So basically you can use Docker with a lint tool to test the Docker. so it's a little bit meta here. And let's go ahead and refresh here. And so if we do this, it's going to pull the image, and warning, avoid use of cache directory, use pip install no cache. So there's a warning that maybe we care about inside of here. So it says what, use no cache dir. Okay, sure. Let's try that. Let's go to Docker file, and let's change that. Pip install no cache dir. All right. There we go. So it did give us some helpful information. And in theory, that might work in GitHub. I haven't tried it, but it might be worth considering. I'll just put this into the makefile and do this as like a kind of a nice to have maybe for running a Docker lint. We'll go ahead and say git status, git add Docker file. Also, we want to save the makefile. Git add makefile. Adding optional lints for Docker. Okay. Now, if we go back to App Runner, our service is available. Exciting. So how do we use it? Just click on the button. There we go. We see it's actually running, which is pretty awesome. And in fact, I can go through here and just do docs. There we go. And now I can actually play around with my production web service. I just go to Wikipedia phrases, try it out. Like if I was going to build an open API for people, this would be a way to do it. Let's try out Golden State Warriors. Why I keep misspelling that. And go execute. It didn't like that. Let's do Los Angeles Lakers. Los Angeles Lakers. And what happened here? So internal server error. Name string. Yeah, not sure why that's not working, but let's double check on our other side. So let's go back. Let's run our Docker container here. This is always a nice way to test things out, is like, wait, does it work here? So let's go to preview. Preview running application. Let's go to docs. Let's go through here and let's try it out. Let's go to Los Angeles Lakers. What do we get? Oh, here we identified an issue, which is in fact a problem, which is awesome. We figured out a bug here. So what we need to do is we're missing this. And so pretty easy to fix. Let's, well, actually, let's go to terminal to fix this. File new. Where's my terminal here? Run. Edit. But it's a bummer. The terminal is kind of hard to find. Wow, it's like completely hidden here. Where is this terminal? Window, new terminal. There you go. Wow, that's brutal to find that. And let's just say ps-ef. I think Docker is running. Yeah, so we need to kill it. Let's kill this. Yeah, it's there you go. Let's kill all these. Kill all these. Looks like they're gone. Okay. So I see what the issue is that we need to we need to actually tweak the Docker file a little bit. And so what we could do is we can say run and just run that command in here. And I think it was this command. No, it was, if I remember correctly, if I say docker run again, we can find it. And if we go to preview, now the window, this window went away, which is annoying, which certainly makes it a little bit more difficult to debug. But I think it was this. Here we go. I don't need that right now. So we can stop this. So all I need to do is in the Docker file, put in this command like that. And then now that we've got that changed, I should be able to go back to my AWS ECR repo. And let's just look at the commands again to rebuild the container, which would be here. And let's look at the push commands. So let's build it again in this case. And this is actually a perfect example of why a build server could be handy. Is, oh, we need to cd into this repo. Okay, I'll build it again. This time let's double check that that works. Looks good. There we go. See, now we see it's loading that corpus inside of there. Let's tag it just like it says. And then let's push. And then we can do the final command. Okay, so now that it's pushed, or once it pushes, because we didn't set up the auto deploy, which in hindsight actually would have been kind of cool, we need to just manually trigger it. So if we go back to here, we just need to go here and just say deploy again. And what it'll do is just grab the latest container, which is the one we just updated. So this will again just take a few minutes to update. So while that's updating, I will put this here. Okay, so this will take a few minutes to update. What I could do though is, why it's so annoying that that this thing went. I mean, I guess that's okay. I can still see things, but the other window is kind of annoying that it like I must have closed something that I needed. Oh, maybe that's what I wanted. There we go. That's what I wanted. Great. Okay, so it's the view console. I don't know how that got unselected, but I should be able to test this, right? Because if I do Docker, while it's doing deploy, image ls, right? I should be able to do the latest one I just made, which is this one. And let's go ahead and do up arrows. There we go. So let's run it locally. Let's go to preview running application. And now this would be the moment of truth, is if I say git and I put in, try it out, and I do LA Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers, does it work? It's doing something. There we go. So that was it. That was a bug. It's actually better to do a demo where there's a bug and you fix it, to be honest. So that was the issue. We pushed the change. And in fact, we have some nice print statements here too, right? Like I put the print in. So that is actually helpful to add those. And so when this thing finally does a deploy here, there we go, start deployment process, we should have that fixed. So let's go ahead and give it a second. Let's actually look at this observability. I've never played with it before, and see what that does while we're waiting. And so no node selected. Setup demo app. Services. Yeah, I guess I don't see anything yet. So I don't, yeah, maybe I just don't know how this works. And then under logs, we can also look at logs. We should have seen the errors. Like, so this is when it went through a deployed. We see the create service. Now the application logs, see, look, we even see, it says, hey, what are you doing? We didn't do the NLTK, and we needed to do the import, and that was the issue. And we were able to see that everything was working. It just didn't have the right corpus loaded. So that is really, really nice about App Runner. So this would take just a second, and we can even look at the activity here, and it's in progress. And I think you can see this from the deployment logs. There we go, starting to pull your image. So it's pulling the image. And we can even look in CloudWatch and even watch this thing build. And you can just retry and just kind of watch it, depending on how auto retry. We want to do auto retry. So we can even sit here and just watch it completely as it's building things out. So we got a couple different views inside of here, still pulling the image. So yeah, I would say one thing about the App Runner service is the deployment isn't necessarily like super quick. It does take a little bit of time to deploy things. I guess another thing we can point out is that custom domains here, you could even link in a custom domain, which is pretty neat. So again, you can build a microservice that has pretty much every professional aspect to it that you would need to, just in this one service. So we'll give this thing a little bit more time. Oh, there we go. Start deployment. It's pulling, finished. Oh, that's good. So it should be getting closer. We can look at the logs. Okay, it finished pulling the image. There we go. It succeeded. Now we can test out our application. Exciting. Let's go to docs. Let's go ahead and try this out. Los Angeles Lakers. There we go. Full working production system.